6-step journey that they're on. The second thing I wanted to point out is by the way, I got to throw this in here because we're going to see this at the end of the broadcast. Here's a double stairway here, okay? Does that kind of look like anything to you? Well, it's supposed to, okay? And I want you to notice there are 9 steps on one side and there are 9 steps on the other. That would be 18. 6 plus 6 plus 6. If you don't know where this is, I'll show that to you toward the end of the broadcast. It has a lot to do with this, all right? But anyway, so this is an occult idea that if you walk these steps, if you take this progression of steps, that will bring you to illumination, Illuminati, and all this stuff, okay? So the 18 days I get. The second part of it was the actual date itself. Now, I kind of tend to think, and I don't set dates, and I don't say, well, it's got to be in this year, blah, blah, blah. I tend to think that this year, 2011, with that number 11 just sticking out there, I think some interesting things are going to take place. I don't know what they are. I just think some interesting things are going to take place this year. But significantly is the fact that here we have a date of February the 11th, 2/11. That rhymes with 9/11. And in the past, we've kind of seen some things that have happened on 2/11, 3/11, 4/11, 5/11, 6/11, 7/11, 8/11, 9/11. We've seen 11/11. We've seen some things that have happened that, tend to make us think, hey, there's something going on here. What does this number 11 have to do with anything? And a lot of times when the Illuminati or when these spirits, when they use dates like that, you can see them separate as a 2 and 11, or sometimes you can multiply them together. 2 times 11 is 22. And that just happens to be the number. Remember, I mentioned the Arab League. I mentioned the Arab states. And there is a lot going on right now in 2011 with all of these Arab nations. There's turmoil going on. There's chaos. Chaos going on. 2 times 11, 22. That happens to be the exact number of member states that is in the Arab League. And when we're referencing the number 11, of course, we always think of Genesis chapter 11. Let me pull out my Babel conspiracy here. We always think of Genesis chapter 11 and what took place in Genesis chapter 11. It was the Tower of Babel. It was the sort of the fledgling New World Order. Let's build a New World Order. Let us build us a city, which is like a kingdom, and a tower whose top may reach into heaven. We want to elevate mankind by raising them up these levels. So they begin to build this thing. God looks at it and says, man, we've got to put a stop to this. And so they confuse their language. The number 11 is the number for chaos or confusion or disorder. And that's what we see God doing in Genesis chapter 11. Now, mankind left off building that tower, but they haven't given up on the idea yet. You remember the European Parliament building was designed to look exactly like the unfinished Tower of Babel, including, here's this poster, advertising the European Union, Europe, many tongues, one voice, and you have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 pentagrams. Actually, let's see, 11 pentagrams, 11 stars. What does this number 11 signify? Why is it so important? What does it denote? I remembered when I was doing the research for this, I remembered the Monsanto logo. You know Monsanto, our dear friend, that's trying to feed the world, with very, very, very corrupt, they've modified the DNA in a lot of their seeds, okay, and they're like feeding that to everybody. Genetically modified food. Their logo is a vine. Okay, it's a vine. I want you to think about this because Jesus said, I am the vine and you're the branches. So the true vine, He said, I am the true vine. The true vine is Jesus Christ. I want you to think about that in consideration of this hand that we're going to be looking at. Okay? Jesus is the true vine, so there would be there would be a false vine. God calls it in the book of Deuteronomy, He calls it the vine of Sodom. It's the gall of bitterness, and it's the poison, wow, it's the poison of serpents. Can you think of something Monsanto may be doing that might be slowly but surely poisoning everybody with altered DNA? I'm going to be working on this and presenting you my findings concerning what's going on in the world of agriculture. But their logo, Monsanto, imagine, if you remember our study of contemplative prayer, you'll know that the imagination part of the brain, this sort of the weaker side, the female, wants to dominate the male logical side of the brain. That's where contemplative prayer comes in. That's what all this imagination or intuition takes place. GE's doing it, health imagination. Everything in this world is turning to intuitiveness or imagination, including inside of the church. That's the goal of contemplative prayer, is to shut down the male logical part of our brain so that the female, the woman, get it? Mystery Babylon the Great can sort of come in and take over. That's what's going on here. So Monsanto imagination, and on this vine, we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 leaves. This vine is a representation of the vine of Sodom, not the true vine, Jesus Christ, but the false vine, the anti-vine, represented by the number 11. What is that? What is that all about? Pray tell. Revelation chapter 9 verse 11. And they had a king over them. By the way, let me stop right here. If we go, and we've done this study before, and I want you to do this. In Revelation chapter 9, I want you to look, because there's a key. I want you to think about that. And it opens the pit, and out of the pit comes locusts. Now, there is a description given of these locusts, starting in verse 7 and going to verse 11, okay? And Revelation 9:11, I want you to think about that. And there are 11 descriptions, 11 things that signify these locusts and these devils that come out of the pit. When the fifth, I want you to think about a hand, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, okay? When the fifth trumpet sounds, and it culminates in Revelation chapter 9 verse 11, and they had a king over them. You remember the 11 leaves, the 11 stars, which is the angel of the bottomless pit, whose name in the Hebrew tongue is Abaddon, but in the Greek tongue hath his name Apollyon. So, okay, he's like the destroyer. He's going to destroy mankind. He's going to destroy everything in the world. God, in fact, I want you to get this. Because the Antichrist, as wicked and as powerful as he's going to be, is really only the agent of God's destruction upon planet Earth. God's form of wrath upon planet Earth is epitomized in this Abaddon that rises up out of the pit with this number. I wish I had 11 fingers, I would show it to you. With this number 11 signifying him. It signifies this king, the rise of the king. And I'm compiling a ton of stuff to show you on this at some date in the future. And I keep talking about all these videos I'm going to make, and then all of a sudden some new thing comes in. Well, I got to deal with that. We just never have enough hours in the day, do we? Okay, now, here's what I'm going to do. So I want you to think about the link here between 211 and the 18 days, 6 plus 6 plus 6. By the way, that's his number, 666. The number 11, the signification, and the king rising up. By the way, this Antichrist, this beast, is referred to in the Old Testament. I was reading and studying the other day, studying this week, Ezekiel 31 and 32. He's epitomized as Pharaoh, king of Egypt. Okay? The rising up of a new Pharaoh in the last days. I want us to be watching what's going on, because we ourselves are being watched. You know, well, we watch TV and we know they're watching us watching TV, and the all-seeing eye everywhere and everything like that. But there are spirits that are watching us. And remember last week I was talking about the fallen angels. And I've got a few things I'm going to add to that. It's going to kind of tie it all together. You remember a movie called, City of Angels. That would be like Los Angeles. But City of Angels. A city is always a representation of a kingdom in the Bible. So we have the kingdom of angels.